Hello and welcome to TCGS Presents the Tell Me Why Episode 1 Spoilercast. Jesus, I nearly did that perfectly and I ballsed it up at the end. My name's David Turner. I'm here with Matt Murray.
Hello.
Sean Bell.
Hello.
And James Farley.
Hello.
Now, if you're new to our Spoilercast, here's what we do. I play the game, I take down notes, we go through these notes, and hopefully we pick out each other's decisions, thoughts.
Wait, what? Only you play the game, do you?
Yeah, just one of us. Is that how it works?
No, you guys play the game as well, but I take the notes, don't I? All right. Why do you think you'd be on the show if you hadn't played the game?
No,
That'd be
Dave,
a bit weird,
you just
wouldn't
said, I play the game and I take notes. And then we all talk
part of
about
that
what
isn't
you just
true?
said. Well, we
What
all
part
play
of that
it. We
isn't
all
true?
take notes. It just sounded
Yeah,
really weird.
We all play, we all take notes.
Yeah, but I
play the
play
game
it
and
and
they
then I
talk
take
about it.
notes. Yeah, okay. We've all played the game. Sorry, Sean's ego's seeping into every
It's more clarification.
letter of TCGS.
I think that's a worthy clarification, Sean.
I
Yeah,
don't
thank
give a
you.
fuck what you think, Matt. Right. We should point out. Yeah, so we're going to go through the game. We'll go through the plot. We'll go through what we thought of the characters. And obviously, we will take the mick out of each other's decisions because that's what we do.
Well, will we though? Go on.
I don't know. There's compared to the Life is Strange spoiler cast that we did, there's a far fewer decisions in this, so I think it's a little bit more straightforward, but we'll find out. Up front, we all wanted to say and highlight the fact that this is for cis heterosexual white men talking about a game that explores issues that we have no direct experience with. There's every possibility that we'd get things wrong, maybe say the wrong thing or whatever. But what we want you to do is to email in and let us know your thoughts, whether we were thinking down the wrong track, whether we got the wrong idea with something, or maybe even if we used the wrong language, obviously not intentionally. But we welcome that feedback.
It's not like a fun quiz. Like, see if you can spot where we fucked up, and then
see if you can spot the errors. No, but it is. We're open to criticism like this because we want to learn from it. So the email address is podcast@tcgs.co. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah.
Good. And please email in. If you put in the subject, tell me why Spoilercast, then we'll easily be able to pick that out and we'll discuss that on the next Spoilercast. So, as I say, totally open to hearing what you have to say, not only about how we've reacted to this game, but your experiences with the game itself. So please do get in touch if you feel the need to. Right, do we start going through episode 1 of Tell Me Why? Are we all ready?
Go on.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I should also point out, for those of you that have not heard one of these shows before, I scribble these notes down and then read them back for the first time on the show, so some of it might not make sense. Let's see how this one goes.
Oh, and just to say, if you've got this far and you're thinking, I'm probably not going to play it, so I'll just listen to the Spoilercast, don't do that. Go and play it. It's on Game Pass.
Well, more importantly than anything else, it's not a factor. It's partly is that we don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah.
But it's also the fact that we don't want to have to fill in details for like characters
Exactly.
that you might, there's a lot of gaps that we're going to be missing here because we're assuming that everyone that's listening has played the game.
Yeah.
So, good spot there, Sean.
Cheers, mate.
Right. No problem. Right, so opening scene, behind a desk in a police station, child admits to stabbing their mother. She turned a gun on them. Right, so that's the opening scene. You see who we now know as Tyler sitting behind a police desk explaining about murdering his mum. Right, jump forward 10 years. Residential centre. What was this? Oh, right, so this is juvie, as they refer to it.
Hang on, wait a
Yeah.
minute. I thought it was you go to the other place first.
Well, there's an opening cutscene, isn't there, where it's cutting between both of the twins. So
It is, yeah.
Alison's in her room,
Yeah, I thought it was
at
her
home,
first.
and no, but it's also cutting. It's cutting between her and Tyler. So Tyler's in his room at is it Fireweed? They call it the sort of juvie centre, where he's been living for 10 years, and basically they're getting ready to meet for the first time in 10 years, aren't they? But we first get actual control of Alison, don't we?
Yeah, but the cutscenes before then, because then I put music kicks in and as the teenagers wake up. Yep, there's the Life is Strange I know and love. So, I mean, that's the first thing. I mean, it was something that you said on our main show, Sean, that, you know, this is basically a Life is Strange game, isn't it, under a different title.
And that's fine. It's not a criticism whatsoever. I think it's just one of those awkward things that they wanted to do another one of these, and it was just that Microsoft turned up and opened the wallet first, and so they can't call it Life is Strange. Whatever, I don't mind. It's just interesting, isn't it? Obviously,
and it certainly had that feel from the off, didn't it? I think it does move away from that a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. That's a discussion we can have at the end. But I do feel it kind of moves away from it.
Yeah.
You know, a touch. Looking around the room as Alison, she's excited to see someone she hasn't seen for a long time. I don't know why I put that, because I must have known at that point that it was Tyler. It's crazy. Anything? Anyone have anything to say about looking around the room as Alison?
Go on, sorry. No, you go.
I in both cases, I thought they did a very, very good job of just like establishing like what the characters are into and all that kind of stuff. It was, it was really.
Yeah, it was okay, but it was very basic stuff, wasn't it? I mean, you see some DVDs, you comment on the DVDs. You know, it's all stuff that we're used to with Life is Strange.
I mean, there was a lot of space stuff. I'm like, she's into her space.
Certainly is.
Yeah, I know.
Planets,
it's a bit like that,
there's a
isn't
spaceship.
it? Saying that, are we? I mean, how old are they at this point? I'm trying to remember. So this was 10 years later.
Are they 19 at this point?
19. That's it. I think you're right. And yeah, I mean, as 19-year-olds, you looked around my room when I was 19. You knew that I was into video games. So I think, you know, there's some truth to that. So I'm not going to hold it against the game, but I know what you're saying. There was a lot of space stuff in her bedroom, wasn't there? Switch to Tyler. He's been in juvie detention for 10 years. Getting out soon.
At that point, I was like, I wasn't sure what that was. Like, when I hear juvie detention, I think prison. I'm like, I wasn't.
Well, no,
it's pretty relaxed, isn't it, though, for kids? It's not.
Yeah, well, that's what I was confused about. And he's like, juvie. I was like, okay. Yeah, I mean, I was a bit unsure about what the place was at that point.
Yeah, it's like a. It's weird. It's like a little hotel. It's like a student dorm that you can't leave.
It looked nicer than most places I've lived. I think it was. It's all right.
It certainly does. Yeah. So we got to see a little bit of Tyler's life as well. Similar scenes. Both have to find a little wooden goblin toy. A little bit of foreshadowing to is the connection between the two characters and kind of an overall story that drapes over the whole episode, really, isn't it?
Well,
the goblin stuff.
Because it's what was strange was so in Alison's room we saw all the stuff about her hobbies and so on, but in Tyler's room it was suddenly like, so you saw the letter from Alison, which, you know, fleshed her out quite a bit more, I thought. Then also, you know, seeing that, like, obviously, you know, seeing that opening cutscene with, you know, where Tyler admits to stabbing the mum, you're already sort of like, well, if she pointed a gun at him, obviously it's a horrible situation, but you're not like, oh, he's a bad kid, right?
It's like the circumstances.
And then it very quickly sort of doubles down on that, because you see like the notes. I think, is it just one note from one of his mentees? He's like one of the other kids there who's, you know, Tyler's obviously been sort of mentoring and obviously looks up to him. And you're like, right, he's clearly not a bad guy. Like,
I mean, you're on his side from the start, right?
Yeah.
You I mean, it'd be pretty weird if, you know, within the first like half an hour or whatever, it's like, oh no, he just murder her for no reason. That would be a bit weird. But there was also there was a plant in Tyler's bedroom, which he'd named Herbert.
Oh, yeah.
Now, is that a reference to Life is Strange?
I didn't see that.
Oh, I don't know. Why? Who's Herbert?
It's a plant. He walks over to the plant and goes, "I'll buy Herbert." you know, and then he writes a note, something about like, please Walter Herbert or something.
I
And
just thought it was a nice
from
name. I mean,
if you remember from Life is Strange season 1, there was the plant in your room there, wasn't there? What was her name? Oh my god, I've forgotten her name already.
I don't
Life
remember.
Is Strange, don't you remember? It was a running joke. You had to keep watering the plant, and she given him Max. Max had given her plant a name. Okay, all right. Just
Do not.
I was looking out for references every single second, and but
there's loads of references.
Oh, is there?
There's like posters on the wall that also appeared in Life in Strange games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was looking around. I was
I've
like, okay,
definitely spotted a few of
whenever I saw a name, is that like a name of someone? But I was like, this isn't the same universe, is it? Have they said
Do you
anything?
reckon David's going to pop up again? Is that what you're saying?
I was worried about it. Yeah.
David's going to be in everything they do.
Have they definitely 100% said this is nothing related to Life is Strange?
Well, I don't think they're allowed to, are they? I think legally they have to be entirely separate.
Yeah, completely separate.
Yeah.
What if, so David in the first one was the army man. In the second season, he was a hippie.
Chilled out when he...
Yeah. What if he's an astronaut in this one, and then Alison meets him and she's like, oh my god, an astronaut.
Well, this is set because this is set in 2014, right? So this is a couple of years before Life is Strange 2.
That's right.
So who knows what David's up to?
So he was an astronaut before a hippie, Sean, is where I'm going.
That's a hell of an arc, that, isn't it? That's a very deep character.
Right, okay, so
this is where we have the first choice.
I've got Reunited. First time you've seen me in 10 years, and it's Hi Tyler. Bit harsh from Tyler there. Also, couldn't she visit? Obviously, we get a little bit more information on that. You said it's first choice. What choice are you referring to,
Have
Matt?
we missed the people over food choice, or is that coming up?
Oh, what is Tyler... I put choice. What is Tyler going to miss about this place? Food or the people?
Yeah. I said the people.
Okay, I said people.
Yeah, I said people.
I think mainly because he hadn't mentioned the food and he'd spoken about quite a few people that were there. So, yeah, I think that was an easy choice, that one.
Yeah.
Okay, as they drove away, I must say, neither of them are especially happy to see each other, are they? And I think, it certainly feels like that. They didn't have like that big moment where they were like, oh my God, get together. But then you later go on and find out that actually there's a bit of tension between the two of them.
Yeah,
so it's fully understandable.
Straight away. And then
but also not everyone does do that. Like sometimes
not everyone does, but I think I would have expected it. That like it felt odd that they weren't like that when they first met up.
Yeah.
And looking back on that scene now, you go, I totally understand why they weren't like that. Mm-hmm. They're both really angry at each other. So that makes total sense. So it felt weird at the time, but obviously knowing it in context. Conversation on the ferry. So you get a ferry on the way to your hometown. Mm-hmm. At this point, I'm finding it confusing who I'm controlling during this bit. Did anyone else have this problem where prompts would come up for you to talk, but you didn't know which one was going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I think I had that. And at one point when I was walking around on the deck of that ferry, and like I wasn't sure. Alison was like saying something. I was like, but then she was on the phone, and I was like, is it me? I was a bit confused about that bit as well.
I got to say, didn't like the ferry bit at all.
No, really.
I wasn't. And there are several reasons. One, the actual space you get to walk around is tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked great. Yeah, like the landscape looked fantastic.
The views were gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that awkwardness between the two, but also, and I'm jumping ahead of it here. I will pull it back and talk about the ferry a little bit more, but. The way you end the ferry segment was so frustrating to me because I went to go in the car and Alison made a comment about, oh, don't go in the car, come over here and, let's chat or whatever. And then I went over but I'd asked her everything and there was no further options. And so I just thought, okay, I'll just stand here. Something might happen. Nothing happened. So I just thought, I'll get in the car then.
Had you exhausted all the conversation with that bloke as well? Okay.
Yep.
That's weird.
Yeah. So there was literally nothing else you could do. Plus the upper deck was like blocked off by those chains that they use in video games to say, nope, you ain't going up there. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't think it was the strongest start.
Yeah, it wasn't very clear where if that was going to end it because I was like,
Yeah.
Well, am I going to get in the car and just sit in there?
Drive it into the sea.
I'd rather stand up on
credits
top
roll.
deck, at least have a look at the view. But it's like,
Did you notice though? It's quite well done, I guess, that whole section is like you're actually in the water in this area.
Yeah, because
and
so
you
often
are
in
moving
games,
from one place to the other.
yeah, like so often these sorts of things in games, you sort of after a while you realise, hang on a minute, we're not any fucking closer. It's a trick.
There's that tree
And,
again.
yeah, but yeah, you are actually moving from one side to the other, as you say. So I assume you can just wait it out, can you? And then
I must have been in the last like 10 seconds before
Yeah.
the scene naturally ended because you could see the dock.
yeah,
Like
same.
the boat moving into the dock, but by that point, I just wanted to get off that ferry. So, so I did put about this. The adoptive father wouldn't let her see him. That makes sense. So that raises the idea of the tension between the two characters.
Mhm.
Did you accept the ring gift?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did. I didn't
Yeah, I
really
did
want
as
to,
well.
but I was like, I didn't want to be a wanker about it. So I said,
Well, you see, I figured at this point, like, I didn't know I didn't know what the situation was or anything like that. So I just thought I didn't want to start being angry with people
Exactly,
yet
yeah.
until I knew
Yeah,
the context
yeah.
of
Let's
what was
at least,
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's it. In my head, I was accepting the ring for
On her,
Alison.
yeah, for Alison
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
not for the person that was offering it.
Yeah.
I felt like in a time like this, it might be best to draw a line under things and start afresh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
78,
But obviously didn't know how deep it was going into the past when
Well,
I'd arrived.
78% accepted it.
That makes sense
13%
to me.
refused it. 9% threw it into the fucking water.
Oh
Well,
my god, you could throw it in the water.
I was dreading it because it was sort of over the edge of that boat, or over the edge of the ferry, and I was like, is he then going to accept it then throw it? He was the way he was, his hands were over the edge. I thought he's going to drop it, or he's going to throw it, or he's going to make a statement. But yeah, I didn't know you could throw it though. That's
Yeah, no, did I.
not that I would.
I don't know. Didn't you throw the snowball at the dog and
That was different.
okay. I put this as an important moment. The characters are starting to come out a bit now. I think that's mainly because you started to understand a bit of tension that was involved.
Yeah.
The gift is from their uncle Eddie. Tyler clearly has some beef there. Whale jumps up. Yeah, a whale jumps up out of the water, doesn't it?
It does.
They're not giraffes, but they're not far off.
Yeah, they're up
It's
there.
pretty good.
They're up there, aren't they? They're very beautiful
They
creatures.
are up there, massive whale.
on the list of best animals. They're a solid top 5.
I would
easy.
say top 5 easily, yeah.
I'll say top 3.
Don't go that far. Right, Alexander. So this is the creepy hunter on the boat, is what I've put.
I mean, you say creepy hunter, like that. I was walking around, and you see, like, I was walking the other side of the cars to where he was, and like the first thing you can do is you can just like look in his like trunk or whatever. I'm like,
I thought it was my car. I didn't know it was his
really?
car. And I was a bit like, oh right, okay, this is a bit weird.
I just felt, I can like maybe have like a sort of a sly look, but not like it just felt a bit. But I was just going in there, like, oh yeah, well, what shit you got in your car then? All right.
He just fully popped the trunk and just has a look round. I didn't do this, so I didn't.
No, it's open, isn't it? It's just
okay.
a trunk, isn't it? You just
It just
looking
felt a
at
bit
what's
nosy.
in there.
And then
But
I
I'll
was
tell you something, Matt. This is a reoccurring theme that I've never liked about Life is Strange games and Dontnod games, right? We've spoken about this before, but and the classic one is when you're in Kate's room and she's crying because she's being bullied. And you can just go on her computer and go through her emails.
And you're supposed to. You're actually supposed to in order to save her life later on.
I know, right? And this is another one of those situations where the game kind of steps away and goes, nah, we're not here while you're looking for all this stuff.
You don't really exist. You just...
I still can't do it, though. There's a bit that comes up later in this episode that I still
that's what I was thinking.
couldn't do it because... I don't like it. I don't like going through stuff I shouldn't be going through. Surely that should be part of the game.
I didn't even know you could go through his like that. I had a look around. I looked at the car and all the stickers and stuff, and we're like, okay, I can get the idea what you're all about. And then
when you can judge a character by the bumper stickers.
So non-judgmental.
I think you can. It paid off when I went and talked to him. And,
well,
it was a very uneasy conversation.
But you basically get a bit too close and looking.
Opening up his wallet.
Yeah, it's just but I'm totally with you there, Dave. I mean, if it was like totally realistic, I wouldn't be crawling around the edges of the room, hitting X on everything I could. And I've always said, is that ludonarrative dissonance? It's always a bit like, I wouldn't really be doing this, but these sorts of games sort of, make you do it. And it was
but I
shame.
can't do it. That's my problem. I can't do it, and I miss out for it. I mean, there was that whole thing in season 2 of Life is Strange, going through people's tents.
Yeah.
I didn't have it in me to do it, but then I missed loads of really nice moments and stuff. So, I haven't learnt my lesson. Right. Tyler told him that he likes fish, and fishing. So,
what is it? I like fish, and fishing.
That's what he said.
You know what? I love fish. I love fishing. I love fish again.
He didn't like it when I gave him my full name. Oh, right, because he recognised the family name. That was it.
Well,
see, I didn't do that.
Didn't, because there's a choice there. You can either say Tyler or
Tyler
surname,
Ronan.
and I didn't for whatever reason.
I just had a feeling that Tyler wouldn't give a shit, right? That that's my name.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I spoke to him, I thought he might be apprehensive about returning home, and people he might have known before, they might have known him. So I just said Tyler because I didn't want to.
No, that's fair.
Be
and obviously that's why it gives you the
away.
option. So yeah.
I thought I didn't want to have any conflict with this guy at this point.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I thought best to keep a low profile.
Wasn't he leaning on the side of the boat? Can you just push the top half of him and
put him down?
Just push him into the water. See you later.
Already got one murder under his belt. Why not just
I think it was leaning against those indestructible chains that no one can get through.
Yeah, that's true. That character is clearly there to show you that people know your name. People kind of know your past, unless you didn't say your name.
And it's also to set up some of the misunderstandings you're going to get around Tyler being trans, right? Because it's the first comment you get, and it's something we'll come back to as we go through this. But it's a character not maybe not a transphobe, but certainly saying something that's.
I would argue is the most transphobe in the game.
Do you reckon? Because it's.
Oh no!
Well, the comment is he says I'm Tyler Ronan. He goes like, oh, as in the Ronan family, and does he say like, oh yeah, I'm Alison's brother or something? And then the guy says like, oh, I didn't know those girls had a brother.
Ah, so I missed all that.
Which I think, to be fair, taking that in the way it was said. I mean, obviously, the way it was said wasn't great.
Yeah.
But if you take those words, you could go, okay, well, maybe he just doesn't know.
Exactly. That was how I took it.
Some of the stuff he said afterwards was like, nah.
Oh, go on. I can't remember. Go on.
It was just everything was very negative and very standoffish the moment that reveal happened.
Yeah.
He shifted in a way he was speaking to Tyler.
Okay.
And it made me feel really uncomfortable, actually. It just made me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It wasn't one of those moments where it was like, fuck you fucking...
Yeah.
But it was also like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like the reaction there. So, it went very nice. Okay, so you get off the ferry, you get to your family home. I've put it's run down. I went to the window first, and Alison took the piss out of me for it.
See, I've written this.
I did that as well.
I've written this. I was like, why is she taking the piss out of me for doing? Because obviously we're hardwired to. When we play games like this, it's like, well, I know going through the front door is going to take me to the next bit of the game, so I want to look around first.
Yeah.
So to have Alison constantly going like, why are you looking in the window? Use the door, genius, or whatever. It's like, fuck off. Don't give me all these interaction points to then take the piss out of me.
The first place I went to was the barn. She's like, doors over here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at secret stuff.
Why did you go to the barn?
Because
you just want to look around, don't you?
Because I knew the front door would be like the next stage, and I was let's look all this area first before we do the inevitable go through the front door for the next stage of the level.
Yeah, and these games specifically, Life is Strange games specifically have always rewarded you being nosy and rinsing every environment before you move on.
This comes down to the way I play these games. This comes down to the way I play these games. Yeah. This is what happens. So I am trying to make the characters react like they should react, whereas you guys are playing a game.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, you're playing it the right way. I'm not trying to argue my way of doing things. I'm just frustrated with the fact that I can't let it go. I can't just go, oh yeah, it's a video game and this game rewards you for going off. But on the flip side, my head's thinking, imagine if the twins turn up at the door and have a big long conversation about going inside, and then you just wander off to the barn. It's just like, I can't get away from that.
But
so,
I understand it's a problem, like game design wise, but surely you could just fix it by having Alison say, like, do you want to go straight in or do you want to look around first?
Yeah.
And then not take the piss out of me for looking around.
But also, how many times is she going to have to say that throughout the 3 episodes?
True.
Should we go and interrogate this person? Or do you want to look around first? And then maybe like wink at the camera.
Well, that's the thing. They could just say stuff like, I don't think there's anything interesting around here. It's just...
Well, no, I'd hear that and think, there's definitely something interesting around here. What's she hiding?
It's like, no, there really isn't.
Do not go through the barn door. Right, okay. Now she wants to find another way in.
That's what I was doing before.
Yeah, I have to say, the frame rate isn't great in this game so far. Now, you guys mentioned that you didn't have a problem with this, so...
Yeah, it's fine for me.
I find it kind of strange, but I assume you just don't have an eye for those things. I just don't think you have an eye for it. But that's fine. Getting into the house, need a screwdriver. And this is where you see your first memory, right? Looking into the barn.
Oh, yeah.
Very simple memory. It isn't... it was the puzzle where you had to try and find the key to the barn.
Yeah.
So you are seeing yourself hiding that key 10 years earlier or whatever. Hints at supernatural powers in the past when they were kids, and then it fully reveals what those superpowers were when they were kids, right?
Yeah, so they can sort of vividly pull up these memories from their childhoods and like actually sort of watch them play out in front of them.
Well, no, I mean they had superpowers when they were kids.
Sorry, yeah, and then,
so before they split up.
Yeah, and then we find out they had this what they call the voice, which is basically they have basically telepathy, don't they? They can
just have a little chit chat, don't they?
Yeah.
Although they
just have a little chit chat.
Although then they also said at one point it was like I wasn't sure if that was real or not, or if it was just imagined. You know, that we could
10
do
years
that
ago
before.
they were 9 years of age.
Yeah,
so,
and they thought maybe it's imagination.
They grew up and think maybe
I thought that they would have made a bigger deal out of this. Honestly, like if you found that out, I think that'd be like a big thing. Yeah, that it was like that.
Yeah,
but
at no point are they like, I don't think this is normal. Like it's
Of course, we can read each other's minds. It's fine.
It's like, I guess that's happening again. Cool.
Kids will be kids.
Yeah.
Twins, isn't it?
Yeah.
Twins, isn't it? Maybe it is normal for twins. Maybe there are some twins working at Dontnod going, what, I mean, you didn't have this with your brother and sister.
All twins
have this.
It's strange, though, because, like, obviously it's supposed to be analogous to the fact that, obviously, like, you know, twins can have this incredibly close bond and, like, always know what the other one's thinking. But at this point in the story, Tyler and Alison are actually still quite distant, and as we said, like, sort of pissed off with each other in a number of ways, and they're really not that close at this point.
No,
so it doesn't really make sense for that power to just come back on.
It came back.
Has that power got is it like Wi-Fi? Is it only a certain radius where it works?
Well, apparently,
so they could have been sitting in their rooms or whatever, just chatting away.
Yeah.
Just going, why aren't you coming over? I can't.
They could have been chatting away all these
years.
They could have just been phoning each other up with their brains.
And it wasn't even like a really massive, hugely important memory was the thing that sort of kickstarted it. It was just like, oh, where are the keys? Because I want to get a screwdriver. Like that's a memory that came back first.
Yeah, and because and later on they sort of make a point that it's like, oh yeah, it's when there's like a really sort of emotionally charged memory.
Yeah,
it's like, where's the keys? Like what?
Oh god.
Yeah,
incredibly
they
emotional.
really wanted that key.
Which log was it? Which?
Look,
bloody hell.
We're joking. It's a setup for all of the stuff that happens later.
Yeah, it's just
introducing
a bit
stuff.
clumsy.
It's a bit clumsy. Yeah, I think you could say that. Right, get the key, get the screwdriver, get in the house. The twins could talk to each other using their minds, is what I've written down.
I've written
looking around.
So you know when so you pry that board off and you start crawling around underneath. Right. And I've just written Tyler sure does love funny pranks. You know when he like
why? What was that?
Because he like disappears inside and Alison's like, oh, Tyler, are you there? And then he jumps out and goes, boo. And it's like, wow, funny
I would
guy.
do that too if the amount of times Alison went, okay, turn left, Okay, I'll turn left. Oh, no, that's the wrong way.
Yeah.
No, there's a
Oh,
spike there. There's a spike.
Yeah, that's a bit annoying.
I actually got stuck under the house for longer than I would like to have
What do
done.
you mean you got
because
stuck?
I couldn't find the
You had
bit
to go
where...
You had to go FAQs.
I couldn't find the exit,
heavy rain all
basically, and
over
I
again,
wandered
this.
around for quite a while, like longer than I wanted to have done.
It's a
It was,
while.
How many times did you look at those little drawings of goblins?
quite a few times.
Did
quite a few
anyone,
times.
did anyone
there
find
must be
it
a clue in
weird?
one of them.
You know, you find that little like stuffed moose toy,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
it's like, oh, like rotate it with the stick, and you do, and you're just looking square at its crotch, and I'm just,
I mean,
I'm staring at it like, is this a clue? Or
That's
what's
James
going
it
on?
must be.
That's what James was stuck onto the house.
No,
I stared at it several
it
times.
must be a clue. I mean, it must be coming back. Those, how do you say two moose? Meese?
Mooses.
What are they?
Moose.
I
What
think
are
it's
they?
just moose. It's like sheep, innit?
It's not mooses.
I think it's just one moose, two moose. Yeah, I think.
Okay,
It's
right.
moose, yeah.
One moose, two moose. The
herd of
thing is,
moose.
right,
Yeah.
I think the one moose, two moose thing will come up again at some point, because the end of the whole moose thing can't be, oh, it wasn't mine under there, it was hers. Like, that can't be the end of that, because, as you say, you pick it up, you can look at it, turn around, then find the other one. There's got to be some...
Yeah, and because it
was just a weird
intentionally
focus.
misdirects you towards it. It must be a thing.
It misdirects you towards it, then references it later in the episode,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of like, so that's going to come up with those one moose, two mooses. One moose, two moose. Here we go. Looking around the house, it really gives off a great feeling of two kids making the best of what they could in a clearly troubled upbringing.
Mm.
I mean, going back and reading that note is interesting. Yeah.
Which note was this? Sorry.
The note. Sorry, my note.
Oh,
looking
sorry.
around the house, making the best of a clearly troubled upbringing, and you're going, well, how troubled was it? Because there was a lot of assumptions I made while looking around the house initially, and I think it does that. But the more you go into it, the more you go, well, actually, how bad was their upbringing? Like, how much of a villain was the mum?
That was
Right.
the thing, wasn't it? Because there was such hostility, like throughout,
Yeah.
like that whole thing. I was really keen to try and find out why, and like exploring the house and viewing the memories. I didn't really feel that it gave much information about that, like why someone would resort to murder.
The more you, even before like a lot of the reveals, you're saying, oh wow, like the more you look around, this mum really committed everything to her kids. Like, there's pictures of like the goblins everywhere. There's photos of them everywhere.
Yeah.
There's, scraps of.
But
like,
that doesn't mean she wasn't abusive, right? Because
of
No,
course
parents
not.
can do
No,
both.
of course not.
Yeah.
But I mean, the further you go into it, the only form of abuse that's been referenced throughout this whole episode is that final day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like,
Well, because
Right,
there's things
this is-
like the note about the broken vase. Did you read that?
Yeah, that's heartbreaking, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's like
that really
Alison-
upset
what was
me
it?
for
What
some
did
reason.
the note say?
I
It
can't
was-
remember word for word, but it's basically they've obviously broken Mum's vase at some point when they were playing, and it's just both the kids like writing this note apologizing to her, and it's so sad because it's like it's the mixture of them using their words and them obviously trying to parrot things the mum has said to them. Like, it's, like, oh, we're really sorry we did this, like, it means a lot to you, like, and then it's like, we promise we won't act up. Or, like, kids don't say that. They've been accused of acting up,
Yeah,
and it's
for that.
this really, this weird sort of melding of their language and her language, and it's them trying
think
to copy
that's,
her and try to sort of, like, oh, look, we are listening, look, we are paying attention, we are trying to behave, but obviously they're two bored kids living in the middle of nowhere, things are going to get smashed, right?
I do think this is going to be the focus point of the whole game, really, discovering the relationship and what it was like between the kids and the parent.
And because we
Actually,
already
I think that's
see, this becomes more plain later on, but there's already a bit of a disconnect here, isn't there? Because Alison just doesn't even want to be in the house, whereas Tyler's a lot more at ease with it. And obviously already at this point you're thinking, but Tyler's the one who fucking stabbed her.
Yeah.
So why is he so cool about this? And
well, then that's
maybe we'll find
you
out
get
later
revealed.
on. But
when you had the note, did you tell Alison what it was? Because I didn't. Because she asks you like, what are you looking at? And I was just like, that's nothing.
I think I told her. Yeah.
Because I just thought I don't. There's no point in bringing this up again.
I remember selecting the dialogue option and wincing because I knew I was going to hear an American say vase.
Vase,
darling.
No, I think I told her. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I told her and just said like, oh yeah, do you remember when we broke that vase? She was like, yeah, Mum was so mad, and that was it.
But and again, it's because it's been framed as like Mum was potentially like abusive. You hear that and you're like, yeah, bet she was mad that we broke her vase. Horrible, abusive Mum. It's like, well, actually, no, I'd be pissed off if Isaac broke a vase.
Yeah, you just don't know enough about their relationship at this point at all, do you?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Right, okay. Solving the puzzle to Mary Ann's door.
Yeah.
Which is obviously another reoccurring theme where they consistently refer to her as Mary Ann and not their mother.
Yeah.
Not Mum,
Good puzzle, works well. Moose, bear, pelican.
So we've found this book, haven't we, which contains all these stories that either the mum the Mary Ann's written them or the kids have written them or both.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you can tell by the handwriting, it's really well done actually.
Yeah.
And even like the way the stories are as well, there's a clear writing style difference between them. But yeah, so the puzzle was you have to. I mean, did you need a lot of help for this? I needed a bit.
Yeah.
Did we all solve it?
I solved it.
I mean, can you not solve it? What's the option?
You can break the door down.
Break the door down.
Oh, can you? Wow, no, I did. The trouble is, I was I obviously went through the dialogue and then got the book, and I was like, okay, what story did she say to read again?
Yeah,
and then
that's what threw me
because Alison said, oh, you should probably look at a story, and then I must have just had a mind blank and forgot that, and then afterwards I was like, which one? So I just read loads of them, and I was like, I had to keep talking to her because she was like, do you need any help? I was like, I just want you to say what you said before again.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's one of the rare points in this game where it doesn't repeat dialogue that you don't want it to repeat. You know what I mean? Like,
because there's a lot of like if you accidentally interact with the same thing twice, you just get the same dialogue.
Yeah, I've taken a note about that later. We'll talk about that in a bit. But
that was the one time I needed it.
Yeah.
The puzzle was, you read one story, there's a story about the princess receiving gifts from her friends, and then by reading the other stories, you've got to work out what friend was most likely to give the gift. And, it's pretty obvious, but it's a bit time-consuming because you're reading all these
I was
stories.
surprised 85% of players solved the puzzle, or looked it up. But only 15% were impatient enough to bust it open.
Yeah, see, I mean, it was easy in as much as if you read the stories, you got a handle on it, but it wasn't like black and white. Here is answer. Like, okay, so one was like, which one would comfort them? Which one was, like kept them in her minds or something?
Yeah,
so,
which one would give them money to get food?
Money, yeah.
Which one would defend
food?
them?
Which one would protect them?
A sword to defend them, and a torch so that they wouldn't get lost in the woods.
Yeah. But no, I thought it was a really good puzzle because it wasn't obvious, and you had to read the story, and I had to use my brain a little bit.
Imagine not reading those stories, though. Imagine the people that just burst the door open and didn't read those stories because they're such a central piece of not only the themes and relationships between the twins and their mum, but also characters you meet along the way are directly related to some of the characters.
Because it's all.
It's definitely going to come up, isn't it?
It's
They're
for sure. Definitely going to come up like later with. I mean, you meet some of those characters, don't you? Pretty obviously.
At the end, at the reveal at the end, you'd just be like, "Who's that?" Do you know what I mean?
What's that thing? Yeah.
What's that thing?
Well, I think that character is mentioned outside of the stories anyway.
Yeah. No, it's destroying my little gag though. Right. Okay. Memory of Mary Ann on the phone. She's sad that she's losing touch with her children. That was quite a hard scene to watch, that wasn't it?
Yeah, it's upsetting.
100%. Because I obviously Isaac's only 2, but you know that day's gonna come, right? It doesn't matter how close you are with your kid. There is going to be a time where they will pull away. And
I've told you with my nieces that was the worst.
Yeah.
It was like overnight.
Yeah.
Where I went from dancing down the high street to music that was being played by a busker 1 week, and then thinking it was the funniest thing they've ever seen, and then doing it again next week, and it's just so embarrassing. Stop.
Fuck.
And I'm like, what? That? No, laugh.
Maybe you just
remember?
need a new gag, Dave. That's probably what it was.
Last week's
So we've
material.
heard that one.
Sorry, if Sean, Matt, if you want to give me some tips on comedy, I'm all ears. James,
I'll give you some tips on dancing.
About it.
Give some tips on dancing, mate. That's no problem.
Okay,
no problem.
Cheers. Oh yeah, you can. James, can you teach me some breakdancing, please, mate?
No.
Okay, thanks. I'm not giving away these skills. Right. Okay. This is where I started to. Right, okay. It looks like there was a good relationship there up until the last few months. So that to me was the first hint that actually maybe things weren't as bad as I initially thought. And I'm not necessarily saying that's the case. They could well have been. It will be interesting to see how they explore that relationship further. But
because at this point we've been in the twins' room, right? And I think we've seen the memory of. I think, so in the living room, there's the memory of the mum kicking off because Tyler wants to play hockey. Yeah. And then, do we also see something about Tyler getting his hair cut? I think we do, don't we? And
but
the mum
all
kicking off about that.
It was Tyler and Alison, I think, talking about it.
Right,
But like all that stuff, I expected to see, I want to play ice hockey. Fuck, rah! But instead, she was just like, not now, I can't now. Like she had some stuff on her mind. Like it didn't seem.
But that's
what was like really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's pointing towards this idea that Mary-Anne the mum was like had maybe realised what was going on with Tyler, and that he was obviously at this point Tyler was only 9 years old, was still as far as anyone knew was still female, and then the mum's twigged that something. That Tyler could be trans, and it's giving you it's feeding this idea that she wasn't cool with it, right? And that, or certainly that it was stressing her out, which is why what we next see is a shock.
Yes, and it's important to remember also that you're in that room and you want to go in that room because Tyler's diary's in there, and he explains to Alison that actually that's part of my process. And I need that. Yeah. I need to read what I went through as a kid.
Yeah, because he was writing about
not to understand, but to just recognise what I was going through at that age. And that really, because that shut me up as well. I was like, why did you want your diary? And then when Tyler explained it, I was like, of course you do.
Yeah, it was when he first started making sense of who he was.
Yeah. Marianne split up with her friend Tessa. Broken picture. There we go.
Yeah.
Tyler finds his diary. Alison finds a book on raising transgender children. I'm starting to think Marianne wasn't a bad person. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where it's starting to come up.
But this
we will say that might not be the case.
That was the point at which I was just thinking this is a lot more complicated than they clearly think it is. It's
and I think it's something we spoke about as well, James, is that after finishing the game, and I know we don't want to go into overall thoughts now, but what I found really fascinating about this is that, and I mentioned it on the show, with Life is Strange, things are very good versus bad, and sometimes the bad people turn good and the good people turn bad, but in those moments there's a good versus bad thing going on.
Yeah.
Whereas here I went into it thinking, yes, traumatized children, abusive parent, good versus bad. These are the characters that we're rooting for. These are the characters we're against at this stage of the story.
Yeah.
But it's really, the game does a lot to sort of explore the grey area, I think is the best way of putting it. That it's not all just simple. It's not just good guys, bad guys. It's
or at least hint that there is a grey area here. That there is something which is you really haven't got the full story yet.
Yeah, there's the leaflet as well, isn't there, for the, I forget it is, that Christian camp for traditional families, whatever it is, which obviously is implied that it's so it's this implication that like, yeah, she's got this leaflet and was maybe considering sending Tyler away to this camp to, sort of indoctrinate him and try and convince him he's not trans. But also, yeah, she's got this book on how to raise your transgender child, and Tyler makes the point. He says, like, do you know how fucking hard to get these books were 10 years ago? Like these, these issues were so, relatively speaking, like weren't really discussed, and certainly not in terms of children. So he makes that point that it's like he's saying that, like, just because she has, because you might look at it and think just because she has the book doesn't necessarily mean anything, whereas Tyler's making the point that, like, no, she definitely went out of her way to get this. Like, there's effort implied, which is why he's then really fucked up, because they've built this whole idea of their mum in their heads, that the mum, like, was having problems and was being abusive, but what really made her snap was Tyler getting his hair cut. And then
it didn't add up, did it?
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
Like, things weren't adding up.
Yeah.
It wasn't adding up. Like, to the initial thought that you had about everything, things just weren't adding up. There was something off. And I'm glad that they sort of, explored that a little bit later in the episode.
Because initially it was a little bit uncomfortable, because you've got Tyler and Alison basically saying their mum was abusive, and then it's like you're being shown things that are like, oh, well, actually, maybe she was nice, which obviously is potentially really dodgy ground to tread on, because it's like you're arguing in favour of it. It's like, oh, well, so what if she was abusive, she also did nice things, which is not a good argument to make. But it's once you start realising that maybe it's just their interpretation of events was unfair. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Sean. Yeah.
This is definitely where it's going.
Yeah.
And again, even that idea was explored in a little while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, what I love about the house is that, like I said, all the evidence says one thing, but the house being empty and kind of dark and drab, like that immediately paints sort of a sad household. Whereas, like, the evidence, the things you pick up on it and see, like, say something different. So you go in there thinking, oh God, this was not a happy home. And then you read a note about the kids being really sorry about the vase. It's like, okay, this is obviously not great, but it's actually the stuff you see in the house. Like, okay, well, it's clear. I just said something doesn't quite add up.
But then, like, in terms of the house being so barren and stuff, like, part of you's thinking, well, I'm pretty sure they were just really poor. And that's
and I didn't get the impression for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
I didn't get the impression it was, like, massively barren anyway. Like, walking around it, like, you've got all of the things, like, where they've made dens together and stuff like that. There's all the comments about they used to sit on the sofas together drinking cocoa, late into the night and stuff like that. It didn't feel like it had been set up as sort of like this, like, really, really, like, oppressive place. Do you know what I mean? I didn't feel.
No, not at all. I mean, she'd put a lock on her door with characters from stories that they wrote together. It's as I say,
but I think just going into, like, an empty house, that already had, like, a feeling, like a sad feeling in there. But
okay, right. So then I said the idea that Marianne was trying has hit Tyler hard. Got to say, I'm really interested in the relationship now. Doesn't seem as good versus bad as I thought it would, but we've covered that. At this point, it feels like the intro has been dealt with. Characters established, powers introduced, mystery added. And then we move on to a scene of Tyler and Alison when younger. Alison has cut Tyler's hair. Tyler goes down to see Marianne. She's already loading a shotgun. And Marianne says, "This is wrong. This is all wrong." And then turns around and says, "Wait, stop." So I found that interesting, the words that were uttered there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is getting good now. From what we've seen, it doesn't look as though Marianne was going to attack Tyler at all, because the scene cuts with her saying, "Well, no, wait, stop!" as Tyler's running out of the barn. Back to present day, Tyler and Alison talking about the book and the diary. So that's the How to Raise a Transgender Child book. and the diary that they found. Tyler now doubting why his mother attacked him, because he raised the point that actually I thought my whole time that I was, inside, if you want to call it that, that my mum attacked me because I cut my hair. But now I'm pretty sure that that's not the case. That's not what tipped her over the edge. So, revealed that Tyler could have returned 3 years ago, but he decided not to come back or see anyone, which I thought was completely understandable. You, a 16-year-old going through all that stuff, and as Tyler said, it just started his what was it? His,
testosterone.
Sorry?
Testosterone injections,
testosterone injections. So, it makes complete sense to me.
Well, also, it's because he said, he was feeling at home as well in Fireweed or whatever. That it's felt like a good place for him.
But then when it comes to the dialogue choices here, I decided to blame everything on myself rather than get into a confrontation with Alison. I didn't think it was needed to sort of confront Alison, saying, well, why you didn't come, and start a row there and then, because it felt like right now that they were just starting to bond a little bit.
Yeah.
It was, though, at this point that I was starting to just think, why isn't Alison investigated any of this stuff?
Yeah, she's been right near the house the whole time.
Yeah. It becomes clear why later. It's still... But at that point, I
kind of thought that was weird. It's like, well, you haven't been away for 10 years.
Yeah.
Why is it just happening now?
Place. You could have, had a look.
I kind of agree that, now that we know what we know, it kind of makes sense. So
did we just quickly? So this conversation, I presume by now we've all clocked the weird little icons that sometimes appear when you make decisions.
Where they're showing two things drifting apart or coming together.
Yeah, basically just appears to be as if you'd even need the icons, because it just seems to be you made friends or you fell out with each other a bit. It's so binary that I don't really know if it's necessary, but it's just interesting that obviously I think the game's just making the point that this is something that is being monitored.
Yeah, this is obviously massively going to play into it at the end, isn't it?
Yeah,
there'll be a situation where if you're really close up to that point, you'll be able to, talk using the voice, and that might help or save someone. Versus,
but for me, it doesn't seem like that's the goal I want to go for. I don't think I should mindlessly try and keep them together.
No, absolutely not. And
you got to be willing to call each other out if necessary. But it's
for sure. Right, okay. So Sam turns up with a shotgun. Alison stands in. Sam seems okay. He fucked up talking to Tyler, but seems ashamed of himself more than angry at Tyler for calling him out. And then I reply, and then I put, Sam is the bear. These goblin stories are going to be very important in this, I think.
Yeah.
And then I put, Sam is a good guy. But I'm not 100% sure if I should feel that way. Sam said, use some language that Tyler found offensive in regards to his transition. And I rolled my eyes when Sam said, oh, you're going to have to just put up with us old folks.
Yeah.
Like that. I was kind of like, I bet I hear that a million times a day, and fuck that as any sort of excuse. But at the same time, Sam he didn't get aggressive, and he didn't really get defensive.
Yeah, he
In
fully
fact,
cops
he was
to it, and
disappointed with himself, wasn't he?
Yeah, what he says is wrong, but when called out on it, he's just like, sorry. He clearly feels pretty bad about it. And I think
that's what I felt. I just felt like the dialogue was cringe-inducing, like listening to all of that.
It was because as Dave said, it's all the shitty excuses you hear from old people. It's, the rules keep changing. It's like, well, not really, mate. It's really quite simple, but yeah.
But then again, like you said, I didn't feel that it was malice. It just felt like ignorance, really, and just clumsiness and just
which is a really interesting
awful,
direction to take that conversation in, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it would be so easy to make the point that this language is not acceptable. And I think it makes that point. But it does so in a way where Sam isn't an ultra-villain coming in and spouting hate. It's done in a much more nuanced way.
Yeah.
And I find that way more impactful than if it was this big overblown character coming in and just being ultra offensive, and defending with more, offensive comments. It was done in a way that made you not relate to. I wouldn't say relate to, but recognize as a more realistic situation. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because I mean, we've all heard sort of horrible people say horrible things, and it's very obvious where someone says something horrible, but it's this sort of stuff where people maybe don't pick up on it, but actually this sort of stuff is offensive and upsetting to people. But because it's not like a full blown black and white, this person said a really and obviously horrible thing. That's what I thought is fascinating. And like the first time you see that, you see Sam, he's got like a shotgun out, so instantly like aggressive. I wasn't sure who he was, and then it's like you look at the layers within a conversation. Actually, it starts off aggressive just because of how he appears in the scene, and then that sort of language is used. Okay, so what's this guy really about? But as you peel back the layers, you sort of see actually it's not. It's not the cartoon villain, or it's not someone using horrendous language. It's sort of the everyday.
He does kind of
not I'm not saying accidental, but it's sort of the stuff that is just happens every single day that must be like the most grating.
Yeah.
So you have the chance, don't you, to sort of to confront him, which is like what I did, and he does kind of hold his hands up. I feel like
yeah,
and say, like, sorry,
because the way this is described on the results screen is very telling as well.
How does it say?
Because it's so in the sort of the percentage bit, so it's you either called him out or you didn't. So I called him out, and what it says above is Tyler earned Sam's respect.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I saw that in the results.
Yeah, it's sort of.
See, I got a different one.
Oh, really?
Because my one says Tyler protected himself against Sam's aggression.
Oh, interesting. Oh, we must have made a slightly different choice somewhere else then. How curious.
Right, okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I'm pretty sure I had your one, Sean.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've looked. Yeah, on mine it said, Tyler earned Sam's respect because the question was basically, well, not basically the answers were it's either I'm me or I'm a man, and
But I just thought it was interesting that it's making
that is a bit odd as well. It's like, oh, you've earned his respect, have you? Tyler's earned Sam's respect.
Well, yeah.
Who gives a fuck?
I didn't see how that weird.
Yeah, Sam's Sam's one who fucks up. Like he should be earning Tyler's respect.
Trying to stand up for himself. It wasn't about Sam. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, but I mean,
surely it's on Sam to earn Tyler's respect, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, but I just read that as like just pointing out that Sam like appreciated being called out.
Yes, for sure.
But it's an interesting interaction, that one.
Yeah, one thing I thought was interesting about our dialogue is that one of the things that Alison or Tyler says is, he's wasted.
Yeah.
I didn't sort of see that. I
didn't feel that he was drunk.
Because it wasn't like
but they make it a little bit more clear later, though, don't they?
Is he wasted? I didn't get that.
Yeah, but they make it a little bit more clearer after Alison says that, though, right? Because he's by the end of that scene, he's just like wobbling about and staring into space and stuff. It was like,
but I think it's because you've just met him, and I was just like, well, he's just a bit spacey, isn't he? It's just what he's like. It's just a bit,
but also, maybe he was just swigging Jack Daniels every time the camera wasn't on him. Maybe. We just didn't get to see it.
This scene is also the first taste we get of like the twins being able to communicate silently whilst talking to another character as well, isn't it?
Yes. Because they're having a little discussion.
I thought that was quite funny because they can have a big old conversation, and you're like, I'm thinking, what is Sam seeing at this point? And then they do, Sam just say, hey, you guys all right?
Yeah.
Because they're clearly just like both stood there talking to each other in their heads.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating because it says, I've written down, you have the choice to use your voice here. I chose not to, as both options, but he's drunk and we should leave, seemed too negative. Instead, I asked Sam how well he knew their mother. And then this is the only gag in the game that I laughed at. Because as Sam, you asked about the puzzle on the door, and Sam said, "Yeah, I never sold it." I wasn't trying to solve it. It was like, that was quite good. Even though it is a bit creepy, actually, thinking about it now. It's just admitting that he was trying to break into there. Anyway, and then I put, now it's forcing me to use one of those negative options via the voice. That's a shame.
Again, I thought the language options the conversation options are quite limited at that point. So you couldn't not go through all the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so
also,
this brings us back to
because I definitely exhausted every option, but then when I said to Alison, like, look, we should go, she's like,
here was where I'm going.
Yeah, and she's like, are you sure that's all we're going to get out of him? And I was like, well, you tell me, game.
Like, what else am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I wrote down, this is annoying. Alison said, you sure this is all you could get out of him? But I've asked all the questions, and if I ask again, it just repeats. These games shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
They shouldn't do this. There's no need for it. Just take the option. Once you've asked once, take that option out.
Yeah.
Like, there's no need to do this. And I don't remember this being this much of a problem in the Life is Strange games either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and
there was certainly moments where you repeated dialogue, but it was never so consistent.
Yeah. And it's not like it's a technical issue. It's just a design decision, isn't it? That they've just for some reason not made this time. It's weird.
Yeah, it's not very good. Right, okay. Moving on then, so left the house and heading to talk to Tessa. Tyler seems a bit bitter about her. Meeting co-worker Michael, he's moving with Alison. Seems like a cool guy.
He's really, really
that's what I wrote down.
Yeah, got time for Michael. I had the chance to tell Michael about finding the book, chose not to. Seems too private at this stage. Yeah, you can't go around just telling everyone like every secret you got. Did anyone tell him about the book?
Nope.
I genuinely don't remember.
Do you remember what the options were? I don't believe I did, but
probably tell him about the book or not tell him about the book.
I think I did tell him, but I think it was just like I think what he actually said was just like, we've found some stuff that's brought up some questions or whatever.
Yeah.
It was quite vague, I think.
Fair enough. Meeting Tessa. Tessa is a bit of a dick, to be honest. What happened that night was God's plan. That's a red flag, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah, that was it. Well, hang on, have we skipped the shop? Don't we spend some time in the shop first and then she turns up?
Yeah, you spend some time in the shop. You meet Bob, don't you? I wouldn't vote for Bob.
Would you not?
Tom,
Tom. Tom, yeah. I wouldn't vote for Tom.
Vote for Bob or Tom.
He was, and again, clearly a nice dude. He just makes a comment, which is, it's borderline, it's probably not offensive, but he has this sort of mild shock that Tyler's so manly that he's like, I just wasn't expecting such a handsome young man or something, and you're like, is that just... I
guess I kind of found that quite a nice thing to say.
Yeah, that's it. He turns it into a compliment, and I do think it's a sincere one, but it's just that element of like shock.
It's like if you haven't seen like a friend of your mum's for ages, and you were 9 when they last saw you, and then they see you at 19, then chances are they're going to say, "Oh, you've grown into a."
You could say the exact same thing, and you wouldn't. You wouldn't detect anything.
I know what you mean, though, Sean. That's what I meant about like earlier when I was saying about it, like cringe-inducing kind of thing. It's like you hear it and you're just like, "Oh, this makes me feel uncomfortable."
I guess you're right. I guess you're right. Yeah, I didn't see it that way, but I can see what you're saying. Right. What is it? Meeting Tessa, a bit of a dick, yeah. Went into the office to talk to Tessa some more. The dialogue options are a bit shit. I can't remember what they were, though, so I didn't write them down. Okay, so after you come out, you sort of decide to gather some evidence to try and ask, because Tessa just shuts down every line of questioning. And what you're trying to do is talk to her about her relationship with your mother or their mother before everything went down. Sorry, someone want to jump in, Matt?
I was going to say, there's one thing that they should have done here, I thought, with this scene, is that Tessa should not have been in that office, like, during the whole of this scene.
Oh, what, because you're just rifling through her stuff?
Yeah, because you go in to like look for evidence, you're rifling through all her stuff and then using her computer and stuff. Yeah. And you're just thinking, surely she'd notice.
Well, the computer, she does say, like, I need to Google something, my phone isn't working, or I left my phone somewhere.
Yeah,
she does say
that. But then Tessa should have said, you can't, there's no Google on that, all you got there is my email. Like, it's not
there's no Google there.
Or like, you've just been going through the filing cabinet, but use my computer, I guess. Like,
the filing cabinet was weird because
it was the safe as well, wasn't it? It was just like, I've left something in your safe.
It wasn't a safe. It was just a filing cabinet.
Oh, is
It's
it just a filing
yeah.
cabinet?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So
It's like
we've
big old
hang on. So
safe.
we've skipped a bit again, haven't we? Because we've
Yeah.
This is
there was loads.
So
of
so prior to
memories.
this, I mean, there's walking around the shop and just picking stuff out, which was nice.
Yep.
I love that shop. Just I don't know. Just it's a really nice little place. Just wander about.
Yeah.
Give me a Tesco's extra any day of the week, to be honest with you, Sean. I ain't gonna lie. You could trust the products. Right.
But we get this is the first.
This is all the memories.
Yes,
right?
this is the first instance of. I mean, I assume this is going to be a regular fixture with Alison and Tyler having a different recollection, and you can view them both as if they both happened, but you've got to pick one to go with.
So I put introducing the idea that memories are different for Tyler and Alison, but they can show each other their own memories. So, I mean, originally you go in to think, well, they have the same memories, so you will see their memories. This introduces the fact that actually, no, they have individual memories, but they can still present to each other their versions of events through these recollections.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so far, you know, these memories that appear in front of them, they've sort of made comments about like, oh my God, yeah, like I'd forgotten this, but it's as if it's just being played back to them as if it's like a piece of film or whatever. And they're like, oh, right, that's what happened. So up to this point, you're assuming that everything they've recalled has been like 100% factual, whereas now we realise it's completely fallible and open to interpretation.
Yeah. And this was dealt with in the fact that there was an argument between Marianne and Tessa, and you could see that Alison clearly sided with Marianne and Tyler clearly sided with Tessa in this argument, right?
Yeah.
That's the what they're implying here. And I put, this is great. The song is on, and I'm looking at all the memories. Marianne on drugs, Tessa giving her a pamphlet about the church group, which was heartbreaking, really, because as you say, when you find those two things next to each other, you think that Marianne was considering which one of two ways, you know, either to embrace it or to try and cut it out. Yeah. But then you see the scene where she receives that pamphlet and she's clearly offended by it. And you go, okay.
Yeah, so it's Tessa's doing that pamphlet was in the house at all.
Find out that Marianne's debt is not being paid, and then you go in and confront Tessa with all the evidence that you've gathered.
Well, Hound. So this is the most interesting part of the episode for me, or chapter. Sorry. So which one did everyone choose?
What do you mean?
Well, you can choose both. There's two memories.
I chose. I thought I'd written a note about that. Maybe I skipped over it, but I chose Alison's memory to go with.
So you chose Tessa was angry, which was Alison's memory, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
And what do you do, Sean?
I went with Tyler's.
And what do you do, James?
I also went for Tyler's.
Okay, yeah. I went with Alison's Tessa was angry. And, it played out and whatnot. But then I'm not really... I've never gone back to any of these games ever, like all Life is Strange ones. But when I finished this, I was like, oh, there's 3 achievements left to get. I might as well go back. And one of them was to go back and do this a different way. And the Tyler's memory with Marianne Angry was so much better.
Really?
Then I feel like Alison's memory was just rubbish, and I mean we're going to discuss this big scene anyway. But like I was left originally thinking, like, what's the point of this whole scene? But doing it the other way was okay. I have such a better picture of this whole story now.
So what do you see then?
Well, let's go through it. So, Hound. But also, did any of you manage to get Tessa's full confession?
Did, yeah.
You know, okay, cool. Yeah. So I think that's the best. That's the best version of this scene.
Yeah.
Because
that's the one I got.
So I got the full confession as well, but I went with Alison's memory.
Okay. Well, so all of you got the full confession, did you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't, and it basically for me it was just like a kind of a pointless exercise. So
what were you missing?
So I don't actually think like choosing each memory doesn't really drastically affect things, but it's more like collecting all the information. And then I got the information about the pamphlet, the email, about the group.
Oh, did you forget the name of the group or something and use the wrong name?
I think I must have not chosen October 2004.
Right.
And then so I did like August or whatever it was, and then like, well, no, I mean, I think.
So didn't you read the file?
I did, but then when it came up, I was like, oh shit, which one was it again? And then like she was like, well, no, I distinctly remember Marianne, working here or giving me money in the summer. I was like, okay, fuck. And then one of the other questions after that was, I've wrote this down basically that so I think one of the questions was that they were worried about Marianne failing the kids, and I said that. And then again, it's like, it wasn't about that. And the conversation has kind of ended.
Because there's three ways this can
I
go.
left out a store thing, and this is fucking pointless.
What are the three ways?
So obviously you get the truth from her. You don't get the truth, or you've antagonised Tessa.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I guess there is a way to like properly upset her.
I need to see what my answers were because that whole conversation was really aggressive. Basically,
I don't even believe in God. she goes crazy.
So the confession was quite touching, wasn't it? Because even though it's clear that Tessa's still a devout Christian, she appears to have sworn off the scared straight camp, doesn't she?
Yes. Yeah.
She admits she was, she really regrets suggesting it and what have you. Because Alison sort of makes the point. Like, without really saying it, she sort of, before you meet Tessa, she sort of says to Tyler, like, she just makes comments about Tessa being incredibly pious and high and mighty, and it's sort of implied, like, look, Tessa might not be all right with Tyler's transition. Whereas actually we learned that, like, certainly there was a time where she wasn't cool with it, but she gets it now, I think.
I think at the time, she probably wasn't 100% cool about it, but also, like she said, Marianne was falling apart at the seams, and it was, she was in a really dark place. It was the best thing for you both. Yeah. And then I think Alison says, do you know, or maybe Tyler says, do you know what they do, these things? And she said, yes, I do now. So I've looked at my results. And basically, I unfortunately antagonised Tessa on that first playthrough. And basically, if you say Tessa said Marianne was failing her kids, Tessa then says she has no idea what Alison was talking about, and then Tyler asks, I've got one question really: did you and Marianne fight over me? And then Tessa's like, oh, we thought of a lot of things. And then Alison's like, did you convince Marianne to send Tyler some kind of program? And then Tessa's like, no, and I think you should go now. And basically, no answers, really aggressive at the end. Alison's like, you're so fucking righteous. And Tessa's like, I won't be dragged back into this. And then afterwards, like, Tyler accuses Alison of lashing out.
So is that is that the outcome that sticks in your playthrough from now on?
Yeah. So when I went back to do it a second time, there's like a couple. I think there's isolated mode where it doesn't affect the future.
Okay.
It doesn't affect your save file. Yeah. You're just doing it to see. And then there's one way you can sort of go to that chapter, and the just changes you make will then affect your save file as you go forward. So no, I just went. Yeah. So this is unfortunately the angle I went with. I obviously didn't mean to antagonize her, but it's only when I went back and replayed it and got the full confession, I was like, this is so much better. For me, like, one, Tessa was hiding something. Two, Alison was really aggressive. We got no information about anything from the store. It was just awkward. Whereas the other way, it was just so much better getting a full confession.
But you did make the right decision not to change your save file because
there's no way I'll do that. Yeah.
Because we need to see how this affects later things.
So, but basically, so I was the only one to antagonise. You all got the full confession, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, cool. Well, it'd be interesting to see how that works. But yeah, I was just really gutted when I left that scene first time. I was like, well, what's the point?
Yeah, so I said, managed to choose the correct answers, almost forgot the name of the camp that she wanted to send Tyler to, found out Marianne was supportive of Tyler. This is getting horrible.
That's right, because Tessa specifically says, doesn't she? It's like, no, if anything, Marianne loved you even more for for being unique. Or I forget the actual term she uses.
She implied that she celebrated uniqueness and stuff like that. So being against Tyler and what he was going through is completely against Marianne's character. Was what they were implying there.
Yeah, I mean, Marianne. Tessa said Marianne wanted to let you be whatever perfect little butterfly was in that cocoon.
That's right.
I was like, okay, wow, okay, yeah. So she really does care she loves him more than anything. It wasn't.
And it's so sad because obviously every time we find out that maybe Marianne wasn't a bad person, you're just reminded of the fact that she was stabbed. And, and as awful as it must have been living with that, at least, for all the, throughout this first episode, whenever, there's suggestions that maybe Marianne was okay, there's usually Alison will sort of say, like, no, she was crazy. We had, she was going to kill us.
Yeah.
Like, we had to do what, there's obviously some comfort in her just convincing herself that Marianne was crazy. And we'll get on to sort of mental health stuff, because there's a lot of just like, she was fucking mental, blah, that it's sort of, I mean, I think I can only assume it's going to go into this more later on.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
it won't leave it at that.
It's a very sort of superficial and potentially problematic view on mental health problems. For sure. We'll see.
Right, okay, so we make it to the police department. Officer Justin Beaver made me laugh. It just made me laugh. I thought that was funny. Officer Justin Beaver.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm surprised they can walk around a police station like this, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too.
I understand that, I don't know how real that is, but the stereotype of like a sleepy rural, American town, and like
Middle America,
nobody locks their doors. Like, we've got police, but they just sort of round up drunks occasionally.
They got like confidential files just on their desks.
Yeah, that seemed a bit of a stretch, didn't it?
The rural thing really hit home with me, actually, when you go up to the wall with the missing persons thing, and Alison's like, yeah, that's such and such. Do you remember him? That's such and such. They've been missing for 9 years. Yeah. Like, where she knew everyone in that missing persons wall. Yeah. And I was kind of like,
why wouldn't you?
You do that in my place. Like, no, don't recognise a single person up there.
Yeah, again, I was looking at people like, are any of these related to any Life is Strange characters? Or...
Well, did you pay attention to any mailboxes in the Life is Strange games? Because I didn't. The mailbox bandit or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
There wasn't David up there, was there? Like
yeah.
I mean, there was a guy in a full astronaut outfit.
Don't use the police officer's computer. I'll never learn my lesson. Right? Didn't use the police officer's computer. I wouldn't. I've never learned my lesson. That's another one of those situations where I could have hacked into the police officer's computer.
So you didn't use the one in reception?
No.
So this was. Okay. I alluded to this on the main podcast. I did this and got the password and got into it. Did it achieve anything?
Well, okay, I did this, but I have to admit, I looked up the code because I could not. I started going through I started sort of doing it, and then I was like, this is, I'm not entirely sure what the solution to this is. So I looked up what it was, and then I used the code, to get into the machine.
So I'm because that's really unlike you, James. You're saying you cheated.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I cheated in this.
It's strange. I can't think of a single other time
it's very
where you've cheated
against character. But it is something I did.
And
we have realised that this month, haven't we? That James is just a cheat. Like I didn't expect that of him, but he's a cheater.
I think it's just that James is just a bit exhausted and he's just got limited time and energy.
Don't defend him.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying. I don't think there's anything nefarious about it as such. I think he's just like, what's
when
the
you were a kid, how many
route?
action replays did you have?
I didn't have any, actually.
Don't lie to me.
I had
He's
a game
liar
genie,
and a cheat.
Game genie.
I had a game genie.
Okay, fine.
But all it does is it just gives you context. You just get greater. There's some sort of like, it's just world building stuff.
Yeah,
like
really.
what?
It's just like what's going on around town and that kind of thing. Really, it's it's nothing.
It just seemed weird for such a long, because it's quite a stretched out puzzle, because it's
a very convoluted puzzle, which is why I looked up the solution, because I couldn't be bothered.
But James, you obviously got in the locker, and so you got everything apart from basically which dog won.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was a good puzzle. I again, like the second puzzle in the game, I thought these were
more how did you work out the password?
So isn't it? So you find the key in a desk, which opens a locker. You open the locker. That's got a letter or like an email she's printed basically saying like, right, everyone change your passwords, and she stuck a post-it note to it saying it's like, oh, it was the winner on my 20th,
winner on my
birthday
19th birthday or 16th birthday, and you have to go back like a few years.
And then you go to a desk, and then so you know that it's a birthday because she's got birthday stuff out. And then you look, she's got like a poster of all the winners of these dog races over the years. So then you can figure out which dog it is, get the dog's name, and then that's the password. Which, good puzzle.
I thought it was great.
But
it feels more complex ones I remember in other Weird Life is Strange games. It was fun to do.
Yeah, but I think because it was so drawn out, I was just like, fuck, this is going to lead to something really cool. Didn't really.
I love that James's version of that event is right. So to solve the puzzle, you open your phone, you go to your
Google.
Safari, you
game facts.
you type in game facts and get the code from there. Nice one, James.
Yeah, I mean this is why I don't ever tell you these things, because otherwise, it's just.
Otherwise, I expose myself as a cheat.
How many more happen,
yeah.
James? What do you mean these things? Is this just common?
This is why I don't tell you how I cheat on my game.
All the time.
The only thing it gave me was like an achievement on Xbox, but there's nothing. I was a bit surprised by that. I was like, am I missing something? I feel like I've worked my way here, and then
Okay. Anyway. So then I put memory. We've already told a lie. So that's the first hint.
That's right. Yeah, you see the kids talking about like how they've agreed to like they say like, we've already lied or something. And
we've already lied. Yeah, and I was like, okay, fuck, big choice. Eddie did his best for me, or being kept apart was wrong. So this was what in terms of
we've skipped again.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff we skipped.
What else have we skipped? I mean, I flew through the police station bit.
Did you not go to the interview room?
No.
Oh yeah, interview room was huge.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
There's memories there and all sorts.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I watched them. Yeah, I didn't write down any notes though.
It was the room where Tyler was first interviewed by the police when he was arrested for stabbing his mum, and it's just, I mean, there was nothing like crucial there, but it was just a bit more.
I just built the scene, didn't it? A bit more of like what was going on, and you could pick up a goblin, as well in there. So
there's all the characters from the books are dotted around everywhere, aren't they? In really inexplicable places.
Oh wait, you're talking about, because I picked up a pelican at some point.
Yeah, the pelican was in the in Tessa's office.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So I was looking at the collectibles, and like there's a massive list, but there's only like 5 per chapter.
Oh, okay.
I think I ended up with like 2. Apparently there's one in the house I didn't get. I got the pelican and I got one of the ones in the house, and that was it.
Fair dues.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
let's
that
get
choice.
His first big choice then. You've sided with Eddie, who is the police officer that made the decision to keep you apart for the first 7 years.
Well, you didn't, did he? He didn't. He
didn't make this decision. He just upheld it.
Yeah,
right?
It was recommended by the courts, and
it was recommended by the courts, and he was doing his job, separating them. And then, or you could side with Tyler and say, actually, keeping us apart was wrong. Which way did everyone go?
Controversially, I sided with Eddie.
So did I.
Do you know what? I'm shocked, because I sided with Eddie as well.
Oh my God.
I thought I was going to get abused for this.
Same here. I sided with Eddie.
We're all in the minority. Only 29% sided with Eddie.
I noticed that at the end. That's where it made me go, oh no.
I just thought, like, obviously they're such a young age. He was a police officer just doing his job, she's had, he's been there for her in the last few years when she's been on her own with Tyler away, and I thought, definitely,
I don't know. I've chosen throughout to not have any confrontation between these two. Maybe it's time to change that. Now that's simplified. Like that wasn't the only thing I was thinking at that time, but I was kind of like, well, literally, Eddie didn't make the decision.
Yeah.
Eddie was doing the job which he thought was best for me.
Exactly.
While I was 9 years old.
Yeah, a 9-year-old girl, gone through that trauma, definitely. I wasn't going to throw him under the bus for doing his job and trying to protect her and look after her.
No,
that's exactly what I thought.
I thought that was the way to go. Yeah,
but I totally thought that you lot would all do the other way, and I'll be labelled a monster because I was.
That is exactly
Team
that's
Eddie.
exactly the same, Matt. I was just I was waiting for it. I was about to say I've been not looking forward to this part.
what was your thought process, Sean?
It was. I'm trying to think. I mean, I think it's because it felt very much like, and this is probably intentional, and it's probably a sign of good writing and acting, is that it felt like Tyler was being the 9-year-old in the conversation. He was getting really emotive and angry, and understandably so. But then you could see that Eddie was basically like, he obviously took no pleasure in keeping them apart. He maybe even regrets it slightly, but he definitely honestly was trying to do his best in impossible circumstances. And
Yeah, I mean,
for some
it was a
reason,
court decision, not his.
I empathise with him in that. Like, I
For sure.
empathise with them both, but again, it's that thing of like Tyler, mate, you were 9 years old. Like,
Yeah, 100%.
And it's a shit situation.
Well, I put after this, I chose Eddie did his best for me. This was the right choice. Alison explained things really well, and I thought it worked in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler not so happy. That's what I put after that, because I think Alison's little speech there, where she was like, "Look, we've all fucked up."
Yeah, exactly.
No, we've
that
all
was
made
it.
mistakes,
Yeah. And it's like, well, don't have a go at Eddie. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I thought that was quite.
I know. I mean,
thought it was quite well done.
a couple of things. One, like that was the first time that Alison wasn't just like super angry.
yeah,
But yeah, and maybe like an angry Alison, if I played it the way that she had been for the whole episode up to that point, she would be like, you did the wrong thing. But I felt at that point, I went side of Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like she said, we've all fucked up. Well, Eddie, if I was Eddie, I'd be like, well, no, I haven't fucked up.
no,
Again,
actually, that's perfect.
I'll stop you there,
we've all
Alison.
fucked up here. Go into more detail, please, Alison.
and obviously, like, and again, like, I know he's got his reasons, but Tyler getting so upset about them being apart for 10 years, you're also a bit like, well, it could have only been 7, mate. Like, we've already covered that. And then when Alison says, like, look, we've all fucked up, and it's like, yes, can we all just chill? Like, none of this is
put a
good,
line under it,
but it's not necessarily anyone's fault.
But then we also got that little symbol in the bottom right hand corner saying, "Uh-oh."
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the thing where it said Tyler sensed a rift between him and Alison.
Tyler remembered this. Yeah. And then we get the final cutscene play out. So, well, I mean, initially before we go to that cutscene, we see the Mad Hunter standing in the corner.
That was a lot.
Scared the hell out of me
fucking hell.
when I
Really?
saw that. It really, honestly, it unsettled me when I saw that.
Yeah, big time.
Because I wasn't expecting it at all, and it looked hideous.
Because even having seen, the drawings of it and stuff, so in the moment I didn't recognise it, and it was just like,
no, because it was only a silhouette, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But you could see it breathing.
and it was clearly
it's kinda like, ugh.
not human.
Yeah.
And I should point out as well, if you've not heard our normal podcast, James is probably the hardest of the lot of us, like he plays like horror games for fun. So when I heard it, he was like freaking out about this, I was like, okay, that's weird.
Honestly, it looked, I mean, I'm just looking at it now, and it's still, I find it unsettling looking at it. It's
Stop
just
looking
like,
at it.
I printed out a picture of it, put it on my wall.
Put it on my wall, yeah.
Said it's my wallpaper on my
6-inch
phone.
canvas I got now.
I'm looking at it now.
So that was a lot, wasn't it? Because no one was looking at it, right? So it's not like there
was no one in the shop.
Yeah,
with
so
it.
it's not like
So
it's
just
going
in the
like,
corner.
oh, someone's hallucinating. Someone's
No.
someone's looking at it and they see it and go, and it turns out it's not there or whatever. It's like, no, that appeared to be there, independent of anyone else
It was actually
being
there.
around, which is more terrifying.
Okay, I'll run through these last couple of notes and then we'll wrap up. Tyler running from his mum. She pulls a gun and says, "I'm going to kill you," in the weirdest way I've ever heard in anything. She was stabbed in the back by Alison, not Tyler. Good twist. Tyler takes a rap for her. The end.
Yeah, that was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. I mean,
I see so many people on the internet, like on various forums, going, "It was the most obvious twist I have ever come across."
Whatever.
Well, good for you.
Fuck off.
Good for you, because I didn't work it out.
See, I didn't think it was obvious at all, but then also, everything makes sense then after that, though. Like,
loads of stuff falls
with
into
so
place,
many things that make
the
more
only thing I
sense,
didn't
which
get
is good.
was that it's like, well, that doesn't like Tyler taking the rap for it doesn't really help. Just means he goes to juvie instead of her, right?
Yes, but I think that was a way of him thanking her for saving his life.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's the least I could do, considering that you've put up with everything and all of this situation in his head was because of him. Yeah. And turning around and saying, the least I could do is take the rap for it.
He still felt guilty because he thought Marianne was trying to kill him because of because the haircut and everything.
What I thought was like, she's been stabbed in the back with some scissors. The kid's only 9. Like, he wouldn't have gone in that. I mean, she died instantly.
It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. But I was like, but it was a real shock. I mean,
Dr. Matt Murray.
I've never been one of those ones to like be when I'm watching like TV or film, like constantly saying, "Well, the twist is here." I've just always just gone along with the story. So for me, it was a really good twist and a shock.
Yeah, and like, really but also it was good in terms of horrible scene, obviously, but we've been watching these memories, and it's been shown that these memories are fallible and not necessarily accurate. But then this was a cutscene, presumably, definitely playing a factual version of events, and regardless of everything we've learned about Marianne, in that moment, you can totally see why the kids thought they were going to get killed. Like, it's
absolutely
not particularly ambivalent, but obviously there's going to be more to it. But it's not like you see that and go like, oh, so they didn't need to kill her after all. Like, it was pretty clear why they felt they had to.
Yeah.
So fine.
I've got a question for you, James.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you texting us pictures of the Mad Hunter? Why is that happening? Why have you done that?
I just thought I'd just shared the picture with you so you could see why I found it so disturbing.
I'm actually going to delete it because I don't want to see it ever again.
It's disturbing though, isn't it?
We've seen it.
Yeah.
We saw it in the game. We played the game as well. I don't know if you noticed. I know at the start I said that I played the game.
It was just him, but we did all play.
We cleared all that up. We all played it.
Yeah, I didn't say that. So that was the end of the episode. What are our thoughts? I mean, in terms of opening episodes, I didn't think it was a bad one. Not one of my favourite opening episodes from Dontnod, if I'm totally honest. Yeah. But I still think there was enough mystery in there, and I think, if anything, the direction it's taking things is way more promising than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was quite cold on it up until I think it was getting to the shop. And then started to warm up to it quite a lot.
That's the big change, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that initially, again, you realise why later, but like the relationship between the twins initially just wasn't sold on it. Again, you find out obviously there's loads of tensions like bubbling away under the surface. So I get it, but initially, just like they don't even seem that close, and like they're not funny. They try and be funny and they're fucking not. It's just not a funny game, is it? Like,
no, it's not.
No, the dialogue was just like
Justin Biever.
Yeah. Was it? No, Justin Biever though. Come on,
Officer
Justin Biever.
It's all the best jokes from Alison and Tyler. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when in Life is Strange, like the kids were younger, so I could, I got that they were making sort of unfunny quips, but
hella.
Huh? Well, I mean, but that's also, I feel like you can excuse it because the kid's younger. Like, they're 19. I'm like, this is bullshit. Most of this is. But I'm totally with Sean. Like, the first half of this game, up until the shop, I was like, this is slow. And, I mean, I appreciated that it was much more complex, and it said like, whereas conversations in previous Dontnod games, pretty much black and white as conversations, and actions went on throughout the episodes. But here, for like everything with Tyler and Alison and how they're interacting with other people, there was layers. It was complex. I thought I really appreciated that. I really appreciated the puzzles. I thought I liked them being much more complex than other ones, but it wasn't really until the shop onwards, and particularly the ending, that kind of saved it for me. Not that I was going to avoid chapters 2 and 3, but if the ending hadn't happened and some of the more interesting bits towards the end, I'll be like, it was it was barely worth talking about. But with that, with the twist, I'm really excited to see what happens next.
I don't know. I was intrigued from when we started exploring the house. I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, I think, I didn't dislike it at any point, but I was slightly concerned until we got to the shop, and I was like, okay, I can see the various different directions they could take this in, and it's way more interesting than I thought it was going to be. And let's face it, it was still better than episode 1, series 1.
Oh my god.
Life is Strange.
Jesus.
Which was not good.
It's interesting as well. Like, I think it's
essential.
It's sort of retroactively improved in my head since, because I've actually looked at what the trans community thinks of it, or certain individuals at least. Because a few outlets actually made sure they got a trans right to look at it. So Games Radar, Stacey Henley reviewed it, and she absolutely loved it. She says Tyler is quite simply the new gold standard for trans characters in video games. It's not just that he exists as a trans man leading a major video game, but the confidence with which he's portrayed. The game doesn't shy away from the word transgender, nor does it use it melodramatically. Tyler makes references to being on testosterone, and while everyone reacts differently to seeing Tyler for the first time, all seem realistic and none seem mean-spirited or use transphobia to raise the stakes. Dontnod Entertainment has provided a helpful fact section to help you avoid any triggering moments. The biggie being Biggie being his dead name is never used, which I thought was really interesting because it was a month or two ago we were talking about the Red Strings Club and how that infamously there's a trans character in it, and there is a puzzle where like this trans woman's dead name is like the solution to a puzzle, and there was an interesting debate around that because. So people called out the devs for it, and it turned out that, one of the devs was a trans woman, and she'd sort of said, well, I put that in because that is, at the moment, that is my experience of being trans. People are dead naming me all the time, and she wanted to reflect that in the game. And the sort of, the counter to it seemed to be like, yeah, get it. But as a trans person, it's just really fucking upsetting to have to see that in the game. So it's interesting seeing the tactic or the approach that Dontnod have taken here, which is like, yes, there are slightly uncomfortable conversations, but they've obviously intentionally steered clear of any like really obviously hateful stuff, because although it would be valid to include that stuff, like ultimately they've made a point of the fact that one of the main characters is trans, so they know that trans players are going to come to it hopefully feeling like included and thought of. So to then throw in some really horrible transphobic stuff would be really cruel, and they would just and would make it really difficult for that audience to enjoy it. So I get it, and I think it's a good way of so trans players don't feel excluded by it, but also I think it's interesting for players like ourselves to sort of look at it and be like, well, they're not saying anything really horrible, but it's still just good examples of minor things you can fuck up and get wrong.
Yeah, I was about to say, along with the fact that everything you've just said there, you've also got the four of us who felt uncomfortable with nuance of conversation.
Yeah.
And that means that it's doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another one as well. Just when I was looking for reviews of it, this was just a guy who reviewed it on Google, and he just said, like, I think it's great. As a trans man, I noticed subtle things that I caught onto that I could relate to. I think it's important that they were able to portray the complexity of trans people's families in general, especially when parents are concerned. For example, in some cases like mine, my mother pretends things are fine and that she supports me, but only to outsiders. She's actually quite abusive towards me, and I think without realising that she's causing damage, but at the same time, I found research she's done in order to try and help me. I know a lot of parents that have trans children view it as a child of theirs actually dying. So although it's not completely out of the ordinary, unfortunately, for a parent to try and preserve the child they expected to have and thought they had by any means necessary, it's completely wrong to do. but it does happen, and I think this game helps portray that really well. So it seems like
really
they've done a good job.
It's
just reassuring to hear that, from people from the trans community. So it's
Well, I think that's a good place to end it for episode 1. If you're listening to this now, episode 2's already out. We hope you're enjoying it, and we'll be back with a spoiler cast for episode 2, hopefully next week.
Do any of you remember what the tease at the end was for chapter 2?
I didn't pay too much attention to it because I don't like doing that, especially for considering episode 2's out next week.
I have a horrible feeling I skipped it.
I mean, I can't remember what happened, but I know there was one.
Wasn't that good?
I don't remember watching it, no. I've downloaded episode 2 now. I want to go and play it.
Me too.
That is.
Cool.
Very excited.
All right, well then we'll catch you on the next spoiler cast. Thank you so much for listening. If you don't know who we are and you just found us by searching for Spoilercast for Tell Me Why, then we are TCGS. We have a weekly podcast called The Computer Game Show. You could search for that wherever you found this podcast. You can listen to our weekly shows. A little bit more of a different vibe on that thing. So don't be too shocked if you start listening to that. But we hope that you join us and you listen to our podcasts. All right. Thank you so much. We will catch you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
It's all right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.